Welcome back, guys. So today we're going to talk about government respect for life, and we're going to answer two questions. What are the conditions for a just war? What are the conditions for defending oneself and others against unjust aggression? We'll actually continue that discussion in the video that I post tomorrow in terms of taking just defense from the being attacked as a country, as a unit, but also those attacks against the individuals and society in terms of capital punishment. So that, spoilers, will be what we're talking about tomorrow. So when we talk about just war, which is what we're going to talk about today, we have to start with the understanding that there are no good wars, right? Because all wars cause immense suffering, destruction, and death, right? So at no point can we say that war is a good thing, right? But some combatants are justified, right? In and most combatants are justified in terms of the defense of their own lives, as far as if their country was attacked. So let me not say most combatants are justified. Five conditions need to be present for someone to say they are morally justified in defending their own lives in terms of warfare. So, question one: what are the conditions for a just war? It has to be fought to fulfill the principles of self-defense, which I'll get to in a second, obviously. Last resort, probability of success, proportionality, and the country, the nation must never target non-combatants, right? So those five conditions, again, uh, the principles of self-defense, last resort, probability of success, proportionality, and not targeting non-combatants. So what do each of those mean? I'm going to use an example from World War II to illustrate this. Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't want to cough right into your ears. Self-defense means it is combat against an unjust aggressor. That is, someone who has attacked you, in which the damage that the aggressor causes you is lasting, grave, and certain. So, for example, in World War II, Germany attacked Great Britain with bombs and missiles. And of course, Great Britain was justified in forcefully resisting Germany's aggression. Um, there was no provocation, there was nothing that Great Britain did to warrant Germany attacking them. It was simply expansionist aggression on the part of the Germans. Second principle, last resort. So when we talk about last resort, it's exactly what it sounds like. They have exhausted every possibility of peaceful outcome to their conflict, and the only thing left to them is the defense of their lives physically through physical violence. So what does that mean? Again, all normal means of diplomacy, negotiation, persuasion, even trade embargoes, etc., have been used, and all other nonviolent options have been exhausted. So, again, going back to the example of World War II, Great Britain negotiated peace with Germany prior to their entering into the war with them. In fact, every peaceful negotiation, every treaty that was negotiated and signed by both parties was eventually violated and broken by Germany. Okay, so again, in World War II, Great Britain has fulfilled the reality of self-defense and last resort. The third, uh, probability of success. So in the case of World War II, you could, probably not very well, but you could make the argument that this one might not have been fulfilled by Great Britain, but I would argue it wouldn't. Probability of success simply means there must be a reasonable chance of victory. In World War II, Great Britain theoretically could have won. They had access to pretty good manpower. They had access to industrial capability. And I think the thing that actually does justify them as far as probability of success is the third component that they possess, which is aid from allied countries. Without the aid of their allies, I don't think you could have actually said that they had a probability of success, just because of what capabilities Germany had in terms of warfare. Kind of not a huge important point as far as things go. Just know that they did fulfill that end of it. Um, Proportionality. So proportionality, again, doing things in proportion. The response has to be in proportion to the attack. So uh, this is kind of leads right into the fifth point. But in addition, the use of arms must not produce evils and disorders graver than the evil to be eliminated. So in the case of World War II, um, Great Britain used conventional weapons to defend itself. It didn't use, when we talk about non-conventional weapons, we're talking about things like chemical warfare, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and other things along that line, things that are not proportionate in terms of what they do. So you cannot use disproportionate means to defend yourself. So if somebody attacks you with, throwing a pebble at you, you can't take a bazooka and shoot that back at them, right? So disproportionate that's what it means. So proportionality really speaks to you can't create a graver evil through the defense of yourself and have it be morally justifiable. The fifth is non-combatants. So I talked about things like nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, etc. Non-combatants, that is, innocent people, unarmed citizens, can never be attacked, right? They're not soldiers. And so this is one where we look at World War II. In World War II, you could say the Allies certainly met the first four of these. And generally speaking, they met all five. But there are several situations in World War II where the Allies did not live up to the moral just war defense, just war capabilities in terms of not targeting non-combatants. The most obvious and egregious of them is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What was the purpose behind dropping nuclear bombs in those cases? It was to break the will of the Japanese so that the Japanese would not defend their country. And it was very effective, but it was not moral, right? But something that probably you guys don't know in terms of World War II, there were a lot of bombing campaigns run in Europe by the Allies that also targeted non-combatants. Not necessarily purposefully, although they did. But for example, in the long ago time of the 1990s when I went to Germany, 50 years after the end of World War II, I went to the town of Dresden. Dresden was the target of firebombing by the Allies. It leveled the entire city. Now, to be fair to the Allies, it was a viable military target because it had industrial capabilities and was making stuff for World War II in terms of the defense of Germany. But it also was indiscriminate in the way that they carried out this campaign. It was meant to break the will of the German people, much like the use of nuclear weapons at the end of World War II, technically hydrogen bomb weapons at the end of World War II. And when I went there in the 90s, like the devastation 50 years later was still there were parts of that town that were completely leveled. So all of this ties back into the concept of self-defense. When we talk about the fifth commandment, right, it's about respecting and protecting innocent life. And as a human being, you have the right to defend yourself against an unjust aggressor, even if it means injuring the assailant. Now, killing the other person is never something that we should hope for, right? It's never something that we want necessarily to happen, but if it happens in the defense of your own life, it is not a violation of moral law and of the fifth commandment, as long as that is not your intention, as long as the intention is the defense of your own life. Okay? So when we talk about this one, let's just quickly take a look at the second question. What are the conditions for defending oneself and others against unjust aggression? The act of self-defense, even though it may involve harm and injury to the assailant. So harm and injury means like actually what it sounds like, harming them, injuring, possibly even killing them, is compatible with the fifth commandment. Extreme measures can only be taken as a last resort when there's no other option. So again, you never want to seek the death of the other person or persons, but it is a morally acceptable outcome if that is the only option available to you. Okay? And we'll continue this discussion of just self-defense tomorrow when we talk about capital punishment and how it applies on a societal level as well. Okay? For those of you that were hoping for extra credit today, I'm not going to do it every day, but I'm glad that you stayed with me through the whole video. And maybe if you follow, right, so you can see notifications, maybe if you like and make me feel good about myself, maybe there'll be more of those opportunities for extra credit in the future. I will see you guys tomorrow in the next video, and just make sure that you are getting ready for your quiz on Monday of next week, your test on Wednesday of next week, and that you have your Unit 7 packets questions done for Tuesday, your journal collection 10 done for Wednesday. Love you guys. See you guys. Bye.